There's not enough coffee for that.
I'm actually kind of kind to you. There are worse ones, you know.
Oh, bring them on, honey. You
Yeah,
know I love a
bring 'em on.
challenge.
You heard her, right? You heard her. Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Yes. Well, I can tell you all set your clocks properly. I know. Last week, I did not send out a special email because I thought that you would know to spring forward. 30 of you did. Welcome, everyone, welcome. It's Palm Sunday. Yes. And poor Tommy had to stay home because he had strep throat. His mom left him with a babysitter. And when Mom came home with the other kids, they had palm fronds. And Tommy said, "Where did you get those? What are those for?" They said, "Well, this is Palm Sunday. This is Jesus came on a donkey and people put the palm fronds on the road in front of him." Tommy was so disappointed. Wouldn't you know it? The one Sunday I'm not there, he comes. And it's Holy Week coming up, this week between Palm Sunday and Easter. And people who don't know what unity is about will often ask me, well, do you believe in the virgin birth in unity? Do you believe in Jesus' miracles, that he died for our sins, that he rose from the dead and ascended into heaven? To an atheist, all of that would be impossible. Agreed? Yes. All of that would be totally impossible. And personally, I think anything is impossible. And you're sitting there thinking, oh, she's going to go into the deep metaphysical, aren't she? Yeah, no. In unity, one of the things we accept is that we all have our paths to God. You know, when I'm asked, do you believe that Jesus is the Son of God? I'll say yes. And I believe that each one of us is a child of God. When you think about it, everything is impossible. Everything is impossible. Everything, if you will, then is a miracle. I'll prove the point. Raise your index finger. And if you're afraid I'm going to embarrass you, you can hold it down. I mean, truly. I mean, do this. And you know, it's so wonderful, I can even do it without watching. To me, that small move is impossible. I cannot explain, and no one has ever been able to explain to me how it can go from somewhere in my brain that I want to do this, and it does it, even without looking. That's impossible. And yet we do it. Ergo, therefore, I believe everything's possible, and I believe in the impossible. In the Sunday parade last week, there was an article about, and it said, do you believe in miracles? And the opening story is about Annabelle Beam. Annabelle was the third grader, and for 4 years she had been suffering a life-threatening digestive disorder. And she was on painkillers, she was on antibiotics. There were at least 10 drugs that she took. And every 6 weeks, her mom took her from Texas to Boston to see a specialist that had her on an experimental regime. Well, regardless of having this life-threatening disorder, she liked to climb trees. So I related to Annabelle. I used to climb trees too, much to my mother's delight. If you don't want your mother to find you, climb a tree. I mean, because my mother was afraid to look up even though she knew I was there. Okay, so Annabelle climbs this tall, tall cottonwood tree. But it was rotted out, it was hollow, and she fell 30 feet down into the center of the tree. And she was lying there, unresponsive, as the rescue workers tried to extract her. And finally, after several hours, they were able to get her out. They took her to the hospital in an ambulance. And the doctors did scans, they did x-rays, looking for the damage to her body that wasn't there. The worst, the most serious thing that they could find was a mild concussion. And they ended up sending Annabelle home that day with her very surprised but delighted parents. And the next week, her mother noticed that Annabelle's distended belly from the digestive disorder was flat. And Annabelle wasn't asking for her medications very much. And slowly, her mother took her down to no medication at all, and realized after a few months that Annabelle was totally healed of that life-threatening set of digestive disorders. Now, some of these reports, they're scams. This one is true. She had that set of life-threatening disorders. She fell 30 feet to the bottom of the tree. Now, is it a miracle? Were her angels watching over her? Was that totally impossible that she could emerge from that experience unscathed, then healed, fully healed? I mean, did her doctors misdiagnose her 4 years prior? Did they make a mistake? Was she on all these meds for nothing? Yeah. So what's going on? I mean, was it a miracle? Marianne Williamson, who's well known for her work with A Course in Miracles, she says, people are evolving beyond strict adherence to a rationalistic worldview. Quantum physics, spiritual understanding, a more holistic perspective in general have come together to produce a serious challenge to old paradigm mechanism. I was going to show off that I could say the big words. Okay. Quantum physics, spiritual understanding, a more holistic perspective in general have come together to produce a serious challenge to old paradigm mechanistic thinking. People know there's more going on in this life than just what the physical eyes can see. Do you believe that? Yeah. You know, and to take that further, it's not only that there's more going on that the physical eye can see, there's more going on, there's more possibilities than our minds can fathom. Yes? Yeah. Now, have you ever found yourself in a cycle of trying to succeed by doing the same thing, more and more of it? You know, you keep, if I do this more, I can succeed. Or if I try harder, if I work harder at this same thing, I'm going to succeed. Ever happen? Yes. Yeah, and everybody there better, if you're being truthful, you're going to say, yeah, that's me. I'm not talking to myself totally today. I know, we all share that. You know, it's like, maybe if I try harder. Have you ever sat there watching a fly trying to get out of your house? And every now and then, I want to be compassionate, and I'll open the door or the window that's by the fly, and I'll even go. And what does the fly do? Keeps against that window, against that window, against that window, till it exhausts itself, and a lot of times just dies right there. Ever noticed that? Ever done that? You know, it's painful to watch when a friend of yours is doing it. That same up against that window, you know, when just a few inches for the fly, and maybe a few thoughts for you, you'd have freedom, you'd have success. But what really makes it painful is when it's you that's doing that. I've told this before, and I'm going to tell it again. Wayne Dyer, Orlando Airport. He was on the plane. Everyone was on the plane. They were ready to take off. He had to go to Chicago because he was speaking that evening in front of 5,000 people. The plane had mechanical difficulties. Ever had that happen? You're sitting on the plane, and everybody gets off. And everybody's at the ticket counter, right? And he was toward the end of the line. And by the time he gets to the person behind the counter, she says, "I'm sorry, Mr. Dyer, there is no way to get you to Chicago today." And he says, "But I have to get to Chicago. I'm speaking in front of 5,000 people. I can't disappoint them." And she says, "It's impossible. All the routes to Chicago are booked. You'll have to wait till tomorrow." And he looked at her. And he said, "Could you find me someone who could believe that the impossible could happen? That could join me in the believing that the impossible can happen?" So the clerk was a little miffed, but she went off and she found someone else to come and wait on him. And he said to the new person, he said, "Would you join me in the belief that the impossible is possible? That you can get me to Chicago today in time for me to speak to this group?" And she's the same kind of response. "I don't think so." He said, "Please, can you join me in believing that the impossible is possible?" She says, "Okay." And so you know how they they stand there. Sometimes you wonder, are they really doing anything? But and then something clicks for her, and she's even more. And sure enough, she finds, a convoluted routing, but she figures out a way to get Wayne Dyer to Chicago in time, plenty of time for him to speak before the 5,000 people. She joined him in the belief that the impossible was possible. Now, is there anything that's going on in your life that you're thinking is impossible? That you've wanted and it doesn't seem to be happening? You know, maybe you're starting out in a new business venture, an endeavor, and it's like, ah! And you see the abundance that's out there for you to claim. But I've never done this before. Any of those thoughts ever go through your mind? Or there's a cause that's important to you, and you just keep, you're like that fly, you keep knocking against that window. And somewhere in your heart of hearts, you know that it's got to be possible because you see other people are doing it. And they're encouraging you, and you're listening to the tapes, and you're reading the books, and nothing. Because you keep trying to do the same thing harder and harder and harder, or you do more of it. And so let's do a little shift. Let's believe in the impossible. Let's believe anything is impossible. Mary Morrissey has a term. She says, when you say, "Oh, but I can't do that," because this is what's been going on in my life, and then always she says, "Until now." Until now. All right, so that's in the past. I have to keep remembering this is the past. This is the future. Okay, so in the past, you couldn't do certain things, right? And it might be simply because of your belief system. The expression, I'll believe it when I see it. The truth is you'll see it when you believe it. Remember all of the miracles that Jesus performed. The healing of the sick. When he told the cripple that was by the pool of Bethesda that he could pick up his mat and walk. That man suddenly had the belief that he could do it. Years he had sat there on his mat thinking that he had to get down to that pool when the waters were roiling. Remember, that's when you could get the healing? And he had no one to help him to get down there. And then Jesus comes up. He says, "You want to walk?" "Well, I haven't been able to walk yet." He said, "Well, until now. Pick up your mat." And he did. Remember when Jesus rose Lazarus from the tomb? And I love the staging of this. He received word that Lazarus had died, and he waited several days before he went to Mary and Martha's. And they were not happy with him. They said, "We sent the message, where have you been?" He's like, "Not to worry." And it's like a stage production. You've got to have the great entrance. So what was Lazarus really representing? He was representing stagnant old thinking. And it was supposed to die. It had to die. And all that Jesus did was go there, until now. That Lazarus had been under a certain paradigm, certain way of thinking. And Jesus goes, and he's got the crowd, and they're watching. And he goes to the tomb. And, after a few days, I bet Lazarus was a bit raunchy there. And he says, "Get out here. Leave it behind. Leave the old thinking behind. Let it die. Leave it there." How many times did Jesus, once. Somebody came and said, "Well, I'd like to join you, but, I got to go home and bury some people. Somebody died, my mom or whatever." And he said, "Let the dead bury the dead. Go forward. Leave the old thinking there and move into the new paradigm. Until now, you might have been stuck in some old way of thinking." Remember the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. No. We're going to move forward. And what makes the difference is your mindset. What do you believe? And we all have those doubts and fears. They have been instilled in us. We have allowed others to influence, to believe that we cannot do certain things. Either because of our social standing, our education, our physical well-being, our sex, our, did I say education? I forget now. our memory. There's a great little book, and it is little. I'm not a fast reader. It is all of 36 pages, and I got it read. And not all of them are written on, you know. Okay, so it's U squared. Okay. So when you square something, what do? No, no, you don't double it. A little remedial math here. Yeah, when you square something, I mean, you are. See, made me drop it. Now, when you square something, you are increasing it exponentially, right? Okay, so it's not just doubling it. That's too easy. You have to be able to do, 5 times 5, 6 times 6. Remember memorizing that? Yeah, 9 times 9 is 81. I used to remember it by going 10 times the number and then subtracting the number from whatever that was. Yeah, it's like, just give me an hour to remember. Anyway, so in this book, he nails it. It's by Price Pritchett. And he goes through different mindsets that we get caught up in and urging us to shift our thinking, shift our belief. And really taking it, though, exponentially. Not those slow, meticulous steps. Not like when you're going through a process and, okay, when I take this step, then, all right, I've improved that much, and now this one I'll improve that much more. And, okay, if I do this, right? But he's taking you from there, and he's saying, do this. First thing he tells us is change your personal rules for success. We all have these beliefs, don't we, on what success is and what it looks like in the world. He said, change the rules. I gave you a card to take with you and to write on this week, all right? I don't want to see it left behind on your chair. Take it with you. Humor me. The one impossible thing I'm going to do this week. The one impossible thing. Believe in the impossible. He said, quit trying harder. Don't be that fly. Look, what is the one impossible thing that you want to do? That you will do? And set that as your mindset. Make that your vision. Not what you think you can do, not what others tell you can do, not what the economy says, not what the politicians say. Oh gosh, not what the politicians say. Listen to your minister, okay? Ignore conventional approaches. I used to drive my mother crazy when, I drove her crazy sometimes, a lot of times, but the one time making pie crust, because there's a process to making an excellent pie crust, right? And my mother was very meticulous, and she put everything in the order, and it was perfect to the recipe. And the first time she asked me to do it, everything in the bowl at once. And it was perfection. Hers never was. She started having me do the pie crust every time, and she couldn't watch because of, all right? Because I didn't know any better. I just, okay, so do it, a different way. Ignore the convention. Ignore it. You know that greater wisdom often isn't. Think beyond what common sense would allow. Common sense would tell you that you cannot fly. Yet the Wright brothers, obviously too stupid to understand common sense, and we flew. And I remember seeing one time on, it was a movie, Amelia Earhart, and they actually explained about the aerodynamics, and I'm going, I still don't know how we fly. Okay? So go beyond the conventional wisdom. Suspend disbelief. When Mary Morrissey was in the hospital with one kidney disease beyond saving and the other one that maybe she could live with for another 6 months, she was 18. And the chaplain came in the night before the surgery. And this is before dialysis. So this is a death sentence. And the chaplain, after finding out her story and seeing that she had been shaming herself and basically she had been destroying her own body, asked her if she could believe that in the morning she would wake up healed, that both kidneys would be totally disease-free. Mary couldn't handle that. Could you believe that you could take whatever is left in the potentially savable kidney, and that all the nephritis is what it's called, would move into the kidney that they're going to remove. And that when they remove that, they're removing your total disease and you will be healed. But what Mary noticed was that even though she didn't believe it, she could see that the chaplain believed it. And she grasped that belief. So even though she was in disbelief, she grasped on the chaplain's belief. And so can you create a belief that will carry you through your disbelief? Can you do that? And what happened was, yes, they took out the kidney that was beyond saving. And they're going, wow, the remaining kidney isn't as bad as we thought. And whereas they thought that within 6 months she would be gone, she got better and better and better. The doctors did not understand it. They said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. So suspend your disbelief. Find something you can believe in. Suspend that disbelief. Focus on ends rather than means. We talk about that a lot here. We have our annual meeting coming up. We'll talk about it there. What is it that you really want to do? What do you want to accomplish? Don't worry about the how. Don't worry about the how. When your belief is strong enough and you focus on that vision for yourself, you attract to you all manner of unforeseen resources that you could not otherwise have imaged to be there to support you. Focus on the end. Do not worry about the how. Rely on those unseen forces because they will show up the more clarity you gain. If you're fuzzy, the universe doesn't know what to bring you. The clearer you get, then the universe knows, oh yeah, I'm going to bring him, I'm going to bring her. Exactly that. Do not confuse the universe. It does not respond well when you do that. Choose a different set of risks. Life is risky. You get up in the morning is risky. You could trip over something, the scatter bug, knock your head off. I mean, everything's a risk. Probably the riskiest thing is believing in yourself. How about taking that risk? How about taking the risk of believing in you? See, I believe in you. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here every Sunday morning. I believe in you. I know you can do it. It's time for you to believe in you. Trust in the power of pursuit. So just trust. Once you take action, then it's clear. I mean, you're breaking open the energy. So you can sit there and wish for something. And you can visualize till the cows come home. And maybe, just maybe, it will happen. I am not that powerful. And if you can just like that, with your visualization, more power to you. I have a list for you, for me, okay? I find I need to take action. And that breaks open that stagnant energy that keeps me from achieving my goal. It will do the same for you. You need to take action, even if it doesn't make sense. And I've told you the stories of when I've done things that made absolutely no sense. But my goal, my vision was so rock solid clear that all the resources I needed came rushing to me. It was before I even knew these principles. And once I learned them, it's, wow, I can make this happen. I stumbled into those other situations. All right, but when you know the formula, my goodness. Seek failure. None of you would be here today if you had not sought failure when you first were learning how to walk, would you? If that first time that you went to stand up and boom, down on your butt, if you'd said, can't do it. You kept trying and failing and trying and failing. When they asked Edison how he made it through all those failures, hundreds of failures when he was inventing the light bulb, he said those weren't failures. That was feedback. Get uncomfortable. You know, that's when you're up to something big, when you're getting uncomfortable. You know, when you're developing muscle, physical muscle, it's uncomfortable at first, isn't it? You didn't come back from the gym or being out walking, hiking, and you can barely move. It's uncomfortable. And what happens the next time? It's easier. The next time after that, it's easier. So get uncomfortable. That's how your brain develops too. Especially, you know, your fears come up. Feel the fear and do it anyway. There's a book by that name. It says it all. Yeah, I'm afraid. How awesome is that? If you weren't up to something big, you wouldn't be afraid. Open your gifts. See, you're amazing. You have so many spiritual, intellectual, physical, emotional gifts, and you've hardly opened any of them under the tree. Imagine it's Christmas morning. And if you had 100 gifts under the tree, other than being exhausted by the time you were done, but I mean, would you leave them there, or would you open every one of them? And yet we go through life and we don't open all of our gifts. Fall in love. Fall in love with your vision. Don't be complacent about it. Nothing's going to happen. And if you're complacent, then that's not your passion. Fall in love with it. Be passionate. Give it life. Give it energy. Make your move before you're ready. I am the queen of setting up systems and making sure everything's in place. And I'm also an Aries. Ready, fire, aim. A little bit of split personality there. Take action. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You fall down, you'll get up. Right? Don't be afraid. Move forward. And then look inside for opportunity. Look inside yourself. That's where all possibility lies. It's not what other people tell you. It's not out in the billboard. You might see a billboard that inspires you, but that's not where the strength is. It's inside. So what's one impossible thing? And I know there's something in your mind that you think is impossible. I want you to write that down. What's one impossible thing? And then set your mind to doing it and take the action. Believing that the impossible is possible. Believing in yourself. Believing that we do live in an abundant universe. And it's yours to claim. Watch your thoughts. Where are you being Velcro? I mean, do you have thoughts of lack and limitation? I can't. Does that go through your head? Who am I? I mean, is that what's sticking? Or do you have thoughts of, I'm abundant, I can do anything. I'm a child of God, I co-create with God. Is that what sticks? So watch where you need to be Teflon, where you need to let it slide off, and where you need to be Velcro, where you need that to stick, to take you forward. There's an expression that when neurons fire together, they wire together. That means that, if you keep firing with your success consciousness, with your possibility consciousness, with what is impossible is possible, and I believe in the impossible, and I will make it happen in my life, then that is what is going to start firing more and more for you. So are you ready to be on fire? Yes. Are you sure?
Yes.
All right. So we're going to take a few moments now. We're going to go into meditation and see where you want to tap into what is impossible and that you're going to bring into physical reality. What one thing this week that you think is impossible is actually possible? Believing in yourself. Just take a few moments and just breathe deeply, knowing that, affirming to yourself, I am one with the one. I am one with infinite abundance. And breathing in that light and love that is God. And releasing any doubts or fears, any disturbance in your emotional or spiritual ideas, thoughts. Breathing in possibility of complete healing, possibility of achieving all of your dreams. Continuing to breathe deeply. Become one with Creator. Jesus came to teach us of how amazing we are. And he said, all that he has done, we will do in greater things. What is your greater thing? What impossible thing are you ready and willing to do? What a perfect affirmation this morning. All that God is, I am. Remembering that with God all things are possible. Now hold that impossibility in your heart. It's one thing that's impossible that you're going to do this week. And surround that with light and love, that one thing. And now take that light and love that you are. You are the Christ demonstrating in this world. Open your hearts to be the full demonstration of the Christ. And take the light and the love that you are and let us radiate it to bless everyone within these sanctuary walls. And because you are powerful beings, let's take that light and love and spread it, radiate it to our Las Vegas community. Bless everyone who visits us, everyone who lives here, seeing that Christ presence in them and their light. And we take the light and love and we send it out throughout our nation and our world, where there is darkness and fear and anger and distress and sadness. We shine our light and we radiate our love. And because we know that the impossible is possible, we affirm peace in our world. And knowing that with your light and love, you have shifted the life of at least one soul, each of you. And that one soul, in their new enlightenment and understanding, is shifting the life of someone else. And so we transform the world, one thought, one word, one action at a time. And as you return to this time and this place, let us affirm that power and presence through the prayer that Jesus taught us.